Don't miss the Morning Brew with Brooks Brewer, the Brewmeister, weekdays at 7 a.m. here on KOKL, Okmulgee, Oklahoma.
SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. Jay Stungo, Gary 5, Jaho Jeff Kados.
Darren DeLon, Jail Jeff Kados.
Mvskoke Radio, Mabo Hedget Wedgeskis. Welcome to our program here, Mvskoke Radio, from the studios of the Brew in beautiful downtown Okmulgee here today. We want to get off with a full program today. We'll be starting off with a segment from Darren. He's talking to our guests from the Mvskoke Reintegration Program about a new program they have. And so we'll go from there. The National Museum of the American Indian has finally announced it's in the process of making a selection for the National Native American Veterans Monument. We'll talk to someone from the museum. And we've also got an interview we recorded with Kelly Enoch Haney, who is one of the finalists for the design. And then finally, we'll be talking with staff from our Department of Health about child dental care and what you should know and what you should not be doing when you take care of your children and their dental needs. So, okay, Darren, off and running.
Thanks a lot, Gary. Well, we're like Gary 5 just said, we're going to be talking with two employees of the Mvskoke Creek Nation Reintegration Program. They're doing great things down there. I mean, they just keep on getting bigger and bigger from whenever they first started. And I'm going to say approximately how long ago did y'all start out, Sprint?
We began in 2005.
2005, okay. And also, we also, y'all have a transitional facility now, also a new building. What else do y'all have going on?
Yes, we have the new building we constructed. It was a 3-year project, a $6.5 million contract.
And I'm going to have to thank Brooks Brewer for reminding me of this. We got to also, I'm going to have to introduce y'all too. I mean, everybody pretty much knows this guy, probably knows his voice, but might not know that name. So go ahead and give me your introductions and also your titles, please.
I'm Sprint Williams with Mvskoke Creek Nation Reintegration. I'm the senior case manager.
And
I am Cassidy Webb. I'm the grant coordinator at the Reintegration Program.
And we're also going to be talking to, with these two, they got a new program that, along with the Reintegration Program, that they has just started or they're getting going. And it's kind of a little change from what they normally do, but I mean, all the same, it's still a great thing that's going on. I'm going to go ahead and let Sprint Cass both take it away. Can you tell us a little bit about this program, please?
Right, no problem, Darren. Yes, the new program we have is a spousal assistance program, and basically what it does is through the reintegration right now, we currently assist formerly incarcerated Creek citizens through a variety of ways, but now we've actually we've got the grant through Alcohol and Justice, the substance abuse grant, and what this grant does is if you're married to a Creek citizen, then you would be eligible for services. So it really can keep the Creek family intact if you have Creek children, and so it's because, once you're incarcerated, it's not just the person that's incarcerated, the whole family, technically is incarcerated a lot of times. And so this is a way to, when that person gets out, to help them with treatment, help them with marriage counseling, because there's a lot of things that they're going to have to, a lot of issues they're going to have to address once released.
And how did y'all come about with this? I mean, I know a lot with the Mvskoke Creek Nation, with a lot of their programs, they do just help the Creek citizens, but, in some situations, it's only the Creek citizens. So was there not case studies, but like focus groups? Did that or did a lot of clients bring this up to y'all, or how did this come to be for y'all to apply for something like this?
Well, with a lot of our grants, it was we had a little grant writer, and she was there, and a lot of times she would just brainstorm with us and ask us different things, like what is it she thought we needed to do, and we would get feedback from the clients, and so from those little issues that we address, we kind of decided, hey, we would go for this grant, or hey, you know, this sounds good and whatnot. And through that, we've helped in a variety of ways, as I mentioned. But we have a driver's license program as well. You know, now with the spousal program, and we actually have another smart reentry grant where we're looking at females ages 18 to 24 and trying to help them once they're in jail, and then once they get released. And so it'll start from when they're in jail. So yes, to answer your question, there is a lot of brainstorming, a lot of client feedback, and a lot of just us getting at the table and finding different ways and things that maybe we don't do, and addressing those needs.
Seems like a lot of things are just going through you guys' heads. I mean, because it's constantly moving. You guys constantly going forward no matter what. I mean, like we said, like we just mentioned earlier, I mean, of course, with the transitional facility, now we got this. I mean, it's something entirely new to me. I'm very, very happy that y'all gave me a call and asked me to follow up with this with y'all. Can you tell us, I guess, how can one person, I guess, what are the qualifications, and how can they become a part of this little program or be able to get assistance? Okay.
You must be married to a Mvskoke Creek citizen, and then you would qualify the same way you would during the normal basis, which is you have to be released within 2 years of your incarceration. Your time has to be credited towards DOC, or if you're in jail, it has to be a suspended sentence or a felony.
DOC. What's DOC?
Oh, Department of Corrections.
Okay.
Sorry. And you must complete an intake form. You must be able to pass a drug test, and you must reside within the Mvskoke Creek Nation boundaries.
That's what I was going to roll into, because this does only affect within the 11 counties of the jurisdiction.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then the things we kind of help with, substance abuse treatment is what we're mainly focused on. Parenting classes, mental and behavioral health, some therapy, and other assistance provided. It'll be kind of on a limited basis. We'll just see kind of what the client needs, and then from there, or what the family needs, and then try to address those issues.
You know, I'm gonna ask both of y'all this, and you know, you brought up substance abuse treatment, counseling. Is there also, I guess, with something like this, you're kind of towards the spouse? Would there be like any marriage counseling involved? I mean, especially with something like this, because you know they're just getting out, they're trying to get back into reintegrate back into society. So would that be one of the involvements, I guess?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yes, I mean, it would be, because marriage counseling is going to be a big thing, because if someone's been incarcerated for 5 years, they've been away from their family, away from their spouse, of course, when they get out, they're going to have to try to mend some of those bridges and different things, and you know, get back to being a married couple, and so marriage counseling would be one of the key components to this grant.
Cassidy, if they do make this on the, if they do get qualified for this program, how long would they be on the program? Is there like a term limit or a time limit that they are with this program?
Not necessarily. I believe that it'll just be a case by case.
Case by case?
It'll be a case by case type situation. Like right now, we have our first client in this program, and he's just getting started on his treatment, and then once he completes his treatment, then we'll move forward on other assistance that he may be needing. So it'll just be case by case on what that person is needing.
Okay. Are you hoping like for you know, like, okay, we want to try and do this in 6 months, or is that even possible to even try and like think of something like that? Or
I think that we should ultimately have some goals set, so that way. I think 6 months would be. How long is it for a client within the reintegration program? How long do they?
It's generally 6 to 9 months. Sometimes it may take a little longer. It just, as Cassidy said, it depends on the needs. And then, but with every client, we go over a client plan with them. We go over a summary, and so from there, we can kind of gauge, you know, how long it's going to take, or what steps that we're taking to kind of reintegrate them. And so, like she mentioned, it's just kind of what the client's needs are.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I mean, that's great to hear. So with if they want to get in touch with the reintegration program on being able to qualify for these services, like who would they have to call, or is there a website they can go to, or anything like that?
We're working on the website right now. Hopefully we will have it completed by next Friday, so that way they will be able to get into touch with us through that. But all they have to do is just call up front to our office, and then our admin assistant will direct them to one of the case managers or myself.
Do you have that number?
Yes.
By any chance for our listeners?
It is 918-549-2620.
Thank you very much. 918-549-2620.
Yes.
All right, Sprint and Cass, I know have y'all come up here pretty hurriedly and everything. I want to thank y'all very much for telling our listeners about this great program that y'all going to be having going through the reintegration program. And I know we just mentioned these the numbers in the span of 15 seconds, but could we mention it one more time? Get it embedded in their heads.
918-549-2620.
Sprint and Cass, thank you very much, and thank you again to the Mvskoke Creek Nation Reintegration Program. We are going to be coming back with Gary Fife with Mvskoke Radio, but please stay tuned here at 1240 The Brew.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Who am I? Am I Native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me, because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am, and meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio here on The Brew. We're going to be speaking here with Rebecca Troutman with the National Museum of the American Indian. The museum is finally moving forward on a long-awaited project dear to the hearts of Native Americans, and that's its Veterans Memorial. Finalists have been selected and have submitted their designs for this ambitious memorial, and we're calling those folks to get an update on how we're doing. Rebecca, are you with me there?
I am. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, well, thanks for taking time out of your schedule. I know that the museum folks have been pretty busy, I'd say. As I mentioned, the memorial is something that Native American veterans have long sought. We wanted to give you a chance to tell us a bit about it. One of the points that Native veterans had made was they felt like there were memorials to other wars and other warriors, but somehow the Native American was not being well represented, including the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Although a lot of their names are on that wall, they were not included in the statue. That third soldier was sort of a generic kind of thing, we were told, and that didn't sit well with a lot of veterans. But I understand now that a lot of folks are really overjoyed about the new memorial. So first of all, kind of tell us about where the museum is going with this.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And yes, I think that's something that we really realize is that most of the American public has no idea about this long and really extraordinary tradition of service by Native people in the United States Armed Forces. And so in 2013, Congress amended legislation that they had passed earlier in 1994, allowing us to move forward with this project. And so for about the past 4 years, we've been working on it. One of the first things we did was to form an advisory committee of Native veterans, some of them tribal leaders, and some family members as well, to really share their experiences and their perspectives with us. And then with the help of this advisory committee, we spent a little over 18 months traveling across the country, holding consultations about the memorial. And so we visited 16 states, we held 35 consultations, and we met with about 1,200 people, family and community members, Native veterans, tribal leaders, so that we could share plans for the memorial and then, more importantly, listen to their thoughts and recommendations for the memorial. And the things that we heard in those consultations really shaped what we then asked designers to accomplish with their designs.
Well, that request that went out to the artist was pretty wide-reaching there. You got wanted representatives of all the tribes in the nation, if possible, some sort of representation, and we're talking 500 with cultures that are vastly different from the deserts of the Southwest to the ice of the Arctic. Plus women veterans, you have several wars involved, and of course technology is involved in those wars. Some spirituality that you wanted to include, and as I understand it, you wanted to sort of welcome veterans to the mall. Wow, I mean that's quite a request. Now, were there a lot? What was the response like? I mean,
so we had 120 submissions. And we had over 400 people who registered with the competition website showing interest in the process, and then we ultimately received 120 submissions. And our jury met a couple of weeks ago and spent time reviewing all 120 of those submissions and decided unanimously on these 5 finalists to move forward to the next stage. And so they'll continue to develop their designs a bit more and will submit their final stage 2 proposals May 1st. But yes, it was certainly a big challenge. So these are the things that you described are things that we heard were very important in our consultations. The idea that the memorial must be inclusive of all Native veterans, from the Revolutionary War forward, all branches of service, men and women. The idea that there needs to be an element of spirituality and healing as well in the memorial, and that it needs to be kind of a reflective and contemplative experience to visit the memorial, a healing experience. So we felt sure that artists would be able to rise to the challenge, and we are really pleased with the finalist designs. Those can be viewed on the website for the memorial, so I'd encourage people to take a look at them.
And what's that address?
Okay, so the website for the museum is NMAI, for National Museum of the American Indian, .SI, for Smithsonian Institution, .edu. And on the homepage, you'll see an icon for the Veterans Memorial. And if you click there, it will take you to the Veterans Memorial part of the website. And then you'll find links to the 5 designs. You'll find a link to their presentation of the designs here last week, and all kinds of information about the whole process and the whole project.
When I looked over your list of finalists, I saw a couple of familiar names there, like Ina Kelly-Haney and others. But I also noticed there was a Pacific Islander there, Mr. Leroy Transfield, who is a Maori. Why was that group included in this particular project?
Well, so it's not so much that, so the memorial is intended to represent and honor Native American veterans, which includes Native Hawaiian and Alaska Native. Now, Mr. Transfield is originally from New Zealand, but lives in Utah, and it was an open international design competition, and so he, saw the call and responded to it, and, I think brought a really interesting perspective to his design approach. So it's not so much that the Maori people are included in those who are honored by the memorial, but it was open to all designers, and so I think it was interesting to see that he decided to submit a design and was chosen as one of the finalists.
Well, they have a tradition of warriors also, so I can imagine how we should be included, I think, in having to deal with that conflict also, particularly on their territory. Now, the process has gotten 5 finalists, and I understand now those designs are being examined once more. And where are you in your procedure there? About to choose one? Is it still going to take some consultation? What do you got?
Sure. So the designers now have, they were here in Washington last week and presented their designs, had an opportunity to meet with our design oversight committee who, let them know some of the things they'll need to consider as they move forward with their designs. They now have a few months to continue to further develop their designs. What they submitted already were just the initial design concept. So they'll further develop these designs. May 1st, they'll submit their Stage 2 final designs. From May 1st through the 15th, we plan to exhibit those those further developed designs, both here in our museum in Washington and also online, so that your listeners will have an opportunity to see them as well. Then July 4th is when we plan to announce the selected design concept.
And the date for the installation of the final project?
We plan to unveil the final memorial on November 11th of 2020.
From what I've seen so far from the initial concepts, you've got a pretty wide-ranging group there, from a more traditional kind of statue-like thing to some innovative designs, shall we call them, that kind of break the old protocols there. So your committee chose to look at all of that kind of thing and was willing to perhaps be a bit more adventurous in their selection?
I think so. I think we did see a very wide range of approaches, and I think that speaks a little bit to the complexity, as you mentioned before, of this of what we're asking the designers to accomplish. But the jury deliberately chose 5 quite different approaches, so that we can now see how these each of these develops and moves forward. And so we'll have kind of 5 different solutions to this problem, and we'll see, which in the end seems to accomplish what's needed best.
Have you had any feedback on the project yet? I know it's still in the developmental stages, but is anyone talking about it and kind of shared their thoughts with you?
We have started getting some of that feedback, yes. And one thing I'll note is that there is a way that people can submit feedback to an email address for the Veterans Memorial, and you can find that on our website as well. And when we post the Stage 2 designs, we will certainly find a way or make a way for people to be able to submit feedback on those designs. We're very interested in hearing what people, both in the communities that hosted the consultations and people who were able to attend those consultations, and other communities that we didn't get an opportunity to visit across the country. We're interested in hearing what people think about the designs and how they best accomplish what they need to.
All right, Ms. Troutman, any final thoughts you'd care to share with us as we move on to our next segment here?
Sure. I think we feel really honored to be undertaking this project. It's quite a challenge, but it's so important. And traveling across the country and talking with so many veterans, we really got a sense of how meaningful this is to them to finally have the service recognized with a memorial on the National Mall. And we feel both honored and humbled to be doing this.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca Troutman from the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. We're going to be watching this one pretty closely, so keep us informed on how it's developing and what final design is chosen.
I will. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me, Gary.
Okay. Thank you. We tracked down one of those finalists, a name that should be familiar to a lot of folks. One of the finalists was Enoch Kelly Haney, who was working in conjunction with Daniel Jones, and he had submitted a design that featured soldiers in different U.S. uniforms and traditional headdress. They were protecting a mother and child. So we recorded an interview with Mr. Haney, and this is what he had to say about being in the competition. Now, Mr. Haney, I understand you have been selected as one of the finalists for the design for the Native American Veterans Monument slated for the grounds of the National Museum of the American Indian. Is that correct, sir?
That's right. I have a partner though. It's Dan Jones. Dan was the head of the Ponca tribe whenever I was chief of the Seminoles. Seminoles. So we got together early on and been keeping in touch. This project came up and we discussed it and sent in a proposal, and so we were selected as one of the finalists, which is 5 people out of. There's over 400, about 413 applicants. Only about 140 something actually sent in something, but out of that we were among the top 5. So I'm very happy about that.
Well, that's a pretty heavy responsibility being considered for a project like that, especially for something that is revered and honored as Native American veterans.
Right.
What were you thinking? How did you feel when you got to this point as a finalist?
Well, I don't know. You know, and I don't mean to down talk it, but I've done several large projects before, and it's gotten down to, it's like at the state capitol there were 6 finalists, and I was one of them, and I got it. But I never know when I'm going to get it or not. I just throw out my best idea and see what happens, and that's what we did, and threw it out there. But we feel good about our chances of winning. We just come back from Washington, D.C. at the Indian Museum, where we met with the other 4 artists who are really delightful people, and seen their designs and so forth. And so we'll have 2 more meetings. We'll have 2 more meetings with the finalists before they decide. So we're still working on other parts of it that need to be taken care of. So much of it is more administrative stuff they want, you know. So.
Yeah, I saw some of the requirements they were asking for a monument, and it just was a huge scope of work, is what I could see. You know, you had to do something that would honor something like 537 tribes and tribal units across the nation, all those different cultures, tribes that I think they said rode horses and those that didn't, and all kinds of things that they wanted in their culture and spirituality. Wow, that's, you know, quite a request. Now, what did you think when you heard all that?
Oh, I kind of went through that once before with the Guardian on top of the Capitol, where they didn't want, because of the 39 tribes in Oklahoma, they didn't want it tribe specific. So I worked out a situation which I thought was, at least in my mind, a good compromise on that. So I felt good about that. And what we did was to divide the country into 6 different areas, and we put on military, like the Marines, Navy, Army, the different branches of the military. We have their uniforms, which will be done in bronze around the bottom, I guess, of the sculpture, and we do that by taking the headdress of each tribe, our tribes in those general facilities, like among the Creeks and the 5 tribes. We have a military guy standing with a turban on and with a plume and so forth, and so we try to lock in everybody by regions of the country and so forth, and what they generally wore. That's how we were able to cover the scope. On the top, though, it's a little different. We have a woman walking along with a little boy, and of course that's central to everything we do. Is mother, and go into the concept of Mother Earth, and so that's really important part of our life is our mother, and the little girl that's with her. There's in some tribes they're considered kind of spiritual guides for a large group of people, you know, and so we thought that would be interesting to put that in, so we did. So basically, that's what it is. We plan to do a lot of work on it.
Did you give any thought to the warriors who actually fought against the United States, during the Indian Wars? I'm thinking, that period stretched pretty much from about when the Pilgrims landed all the way up through the late 1800s, plus Indians who I guess who fought with the British during the Revolutionary, and then those who chose to fight with the Confederacy. Was any of that part of your thinking?
No, it wasn't, because that's so divided anyway. And you said it, that one tribe may be fighting for, or half the tribe may be fighting for the British, the other half fighting for France or something, you know. So in such cases, oftentimes they were divided in their allegiance to a particular government. And at the time, the United States was a small government, but they kind of divided their allegiance to different countries. So that would be hard to capture. I think what they want to do is talk about what the Native people have done for this country in times of war. And when they said the veterans, they're talking about Native people who have fought in different countries in different war. World War I, Revolutionary War, which they did, and then World War II, Korea, Vietnam. And we've had, as you know, many Native people who've gone to war in those parts of the world on behalf of this country. And what's probably really notable is something that Colonel Childers, a Greek, and also at Congressional Medal of Honor, once said when asked about what happened to the Native people in the past and why we fight in other countries like that for this country that did so much damage to us. And he said, we fight because this is our country. And I think that's about as close as you can come to why we do fight. It's our land, and we're the ones who actually should be fighting for it. Huh? Yeah. It's a war and wartime, and consequences are very difficult things to understand. But we do know that Native soldiers, both men and women, have contributed to the freedoms we enjoy today in this country. The date for the unveiling is what is it, 2022 something? Is that correct? Like that, yeah. 2020 something. And what is the next step in the process now that finalists have been selected, and I presume they're going over your designs? Have they told you what the next step is? Well, they did. In fact, we all went to Washington and just on the way back right now, and met with the other artists who were very nice, decent people as well, and was glad to meet them. We all showed our designs and answered what questions they had. And they gave us an opportunity to ask all the questions we could, because there's a lot of administrative issues at hand to anybody who gets this commission. And as we go through the process, we have another meeting about the first part of March to further our concepts. And they have people there that are willing to help each of us to enhance our presentation. And then on the third one, that's the final presentation of our concept. So a decision will be made then as to who they select. Was there a date on that? There is. I'm sorry, I can't recall what it is. That's okay. We have a call into the Smithsonian, too, to the National Museum. Well, now, if you are selected, do you have any thoughts about what that will mean to you? Do what? If you and your design are selected for the monument, do you have any thoughts about how you will feel? I don't. It's probably pretty much like the Guardian that I did on the state capitol. That's a 22-foot sculpture. That's big, and I had never done anything like that before. So, but that's my business, and that's my God gift to me is my art. And so when they offer a challenge like this, I pick it up and go with it. we have great reverence for veterans already. I don't need to do art to be thankful for our veterans, but it is an honor to be able to create a piece of art to see that period of time that they've been there and what they've done and so forth.
Mr. Haiti, is there a final thought that you'd like to share with us, something that you want our listeners to remember?
Well, I think the single thing that comes to my mind is it's about time. In Washington, they have many statues, sculptures to designate all different branches of service, such as the Korean War and the Second World War. And they have all of these now, in the Vietnam Wall and so forth. And when you see the sculptures of these, you see non-Indian soldiers being portrayed in all of these things, but not any natives. And it was time to at least try to teach people that Native people enlist in the military during times of war. At least 1 out of 10 in our population versus 1 out of 100 in other races throughout this country. So we show up when it's time for war, and I don't know how to pick that, because I'm not an advocate for war, but I'm not one who would shy away from it either. So.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you taking time. God bless you for your work there, and we hope that your design is chosen.
I do too.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Haney. We'll cut this off, and I'll get out of your way. Amado.
Yeah.
Enoch Kelly Haney was one of the finalists for the National Memorial for Native Americans. That's slated to be placed on the grounds of the National Museum of the American Indian and unveiled, I believe, on Veterans Day in 2020. So we'll be looking forward to that one. All right, moving along here, we're going to change to what we'd call this, a more practical subject, perhaps. I don't know if that's correct, but one that's close to a lot of folks here. Janie Cook, a dentist with the Mvskoke Creek Nation's Department of Health, has joined me here. Today's subject there is child dental care. First of all, Ms. Cook, welcome to the program. Thank you for coming down.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
Yeah, your second time around on this show, isn't it?
I had a chance to be here a couple of years ago and talk with you about dental programs with Creek Nation.
Yeah, at that point I said I was getting good checkups, and I still am. So
Very good.
I think it was the floss that does it.
That will do it, yes.
Okay, well, but we want to talk about taking care of the teeth for children. I guess baby teeth would be a local colloquial term.
Sure, and this is a good time. February is actually National Children's Dental Health Month, so it's a good time to be talking about this topic, and one that we see quite a bit in the clinic, having kids come in, and we have some that have very good checkups and no decay, and some that have more serious decay and serious issues. So that's what we're facing in our clinic.
We're talking about the first teeth to come into a child's mouth, and then those get replaced by their permanent teeth, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So is there a real difference there when you look at the two, perhaps composition of the tooth or its developmental stage?
Right. With a baby tooth, a lot of times we'll see decay move more quickly through a baby tooth because it's a smaller tooth, less enamel layer, more nerve tissue on the inside. The pulp inside the tooth is wider, and so you take a small area of decay, and it doesn't take it long to get to the nerve of the tooth. And a baby tooth hurts just as much as a grown-up tooth would hurt with decay to the nerve.
It seemed like it might even hurt more.
Sure, yeah, and they can't tell you. They just
they just let you know.
They'll let you know, right?
Now, I guess we want to look at the kinds of things that you might want to be aware of, or some practices that you might want to incorporate into your routine, your care of your child there. So there's, you've got a list there perhaps for us?
Sure. One of the most studied areas is with baby bottle tooth decay.
Right.
And they're kind of changing the terms. We still use that term, but early childhood caries is also a term used. But
Caries meaning cavities.
cavities, right. And it's just from prolonged use of a bottle with sugary substances in it. It could even be just having milk in the bottle and putting the baby to bed with the bottle. Or at nap time, if the baby's fussy, just leaving the bottle and letting them sip a little and then maybe take a little nap. And then when they wake up, they sip a little more. It's generally recommended to go ahead and let them finish the bottle. You can wipe out their mouth and then put them to bed after that.
I remember as a kid, I had a younger cousin back over in Cherokee country, and I was kind of envious, of being a kid, that he got a lot of pop, a lot of soda pop, and even in a bottle. It was, I remember, Orangeade or whatever, Fanta and Coke and whatever else. I was, said, God, why can't I have that? But also, he had teeth that had turned black.
Right.
So what's going on there?
Just that allowing the sugary liquid to sit on the teeth for a prolonged period of time will lead to decay, and decay, if left untreated, just continues to decay the tooth until it turns, like you said, it'll turn the teeth black. And at that point, most of the time those teeth are not fixable, and so we're having to take out baby teeth at an early age. And then that creates a whole other issue with trying to chew and trying to eat properly, and so it just puts them in a difficult situation.
Now, wouldn't that affect the alignment of the more permanent teeth when they start coming in?
It can. If you take out a baby tooth too early, it can close that space, and so you have some space loss, and then you could see some crowding later on as the permanent teeth start to erupt.
Or it might not be aligned as the other.
Right.
I had to deal with that.
Sure.
I'm back in my childhood. Now, the one of the other things we talked about with baby bottles was the alignment, and it. I know a lot of mothers would probably want to beat me in the head for this, but saying that's not a good idea to put the kid to sleep with a bottle in its mouth, because it does affect the way the teeth align.
Maybe not as much as the alignment of the teeth as it would causing the decay. Right. Yeah. And generally we recommend by age 1 to have the child off of the bottle. And I know sometimes that's a little hard. That's kind of their security, having that bottle, but just trying to make that transition around that time.
They should be having a sippy cup by then.
Maybe starting to use a sippy cup and then transitioning on to just, regular cup as they get older.
Right, and so they can either drink it or wear it then.
Right. And you'll wear it too.
Now, how about pacifiers? I noticed that, a lot of kids are surprisingly old and still using those things. My mother just banned it, so not forbid it. No, I don't want my kids walking around with that silly thing sticking out of their mouth. And that does affect also the way the teeth align and to some extent some cavities.
Right. That a pacifier can affect the teeth and the bite. I'll share a personal story. I have a 2-year-old son that we let use a pacifier for a little bit longer than we should have, just for restful night's sleep. And I noticed spacing in his teeth, and that the front 2 were a little farther out than the 2 on the side. And probably within 2 weeks of taking them off, teeth went back into alignment. Everything's looking good. So
after he got over the withdrawal.
Right, there was a withdrawal period.
Oh my gosh. The clinic has been serving about how many kids, do you think? Or the program, rather?
Oh, I would probably have to check. We generally around the start of school, we start to see more Head Start children. They have to have the exam before they can get into the Head Start. So we start seeing a lot of doing a lot of screenings for those patients, and then on up to teenage students, getting ready for school to start. And so we see quite a few children.
Teen dental care might be another subject. We'll
It's
jump
a whole
sometime.
nother day.
Okay, but now as the child is developing, you're trying to do the right kinds of things, and hope that the majority of mothers in the Creek Nation are doing that. But what kind of things are you seeing there? Is there one particular problem that sticks out? Have we already talked about it? One region of the Creek Nation, like perhaps west or south, that has more of a reoccurring problem that you notice that perhaps the north or the east might not?
A few years back, we had received a grant, and we were able to go in, and the premise of the grant was to go into underserved areas, and so we kind of took the southern portion of Creek Nation and focused on that area because there's fewer dentists in that area.
Yeah, more rural subject.
Right.
Area,
Yeah, and so we did a fluoride program there and kind of focused on not just Head Start age, but even a little bit younger, trying to get the kids before they even get to Head Start age. So we're talking 2-3 years old, and just doing screenings and fluoride varnish applications. And it was a mixture. We had several that were cavity-free. Moms were doing everything that we asked them to do, being off the bottle, limiting the sugary foods. And then we had some that had to be referred to pediatric dentists because the decay was just too extensive in some of those cases.
Oh, thinking of perhaps getting into the jawbone or something like that.
Yeah, just decayed and abscessed and just painful for the child.
And so we're talking about a rather elaborate process then about removing a teeth from a child.
It could potentially be having to remove primary teeth and doing space maintainers or different appliances like that to prevent the space loss like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. As a mother and one who's actually got your child along with us, we want to say what kinds of good practices should a parent be thinking about when they're caring for the child's teeth?
Just like we've mentioned, I would say limiting the sugary liquids and foods. It can be used as a reward, if they're going to get a little bit of juice or something, that could be a reward, or it could be done at a meal, and so that they're not sipping it throughout the day. I would limit it to about a box a day if you're going to do juice, preferably none at all, water and milk. But also dental visits. We recommend taking your child to the dentist around age 1. May not have very many teeth at that time, but we can at least take a look, maybe apply a little fluoride if they'll let us. And it's mainly for parent education. We have a chance to talk one-on-one with the parent at those appointments. Fluoride varnish applications, we recommend applying fluoride to the teeth. That'll help strengthen the enamel. As the child gets a little older and starts to have permanent teeth, the permanent molars we can seal and do some sealants on those. Those probably are the main things. And then as the child gets a little older and you're talking sports, you could look at mouth guards for that. And
should you brush a child's teeth, an infant, a baby, and how would you do that?
Oh, yes, it's important to do that. The Academy of American Pediatric Dentists recommends the use of just a small smear of fluoridated toothpaste for a child up to about age 3. So that's like a piece of rice, a little grain of rice on the toothbrush. A small toothbrush works.
Soft bristles.
Soft bristles, and just however you can get it in there. I know with my 2-year-old, we just have to pry his mouth open sometimes to get the brush in. And then I'll let him take the brush after all the toothpaste is gone. Then I'll let him take the brush and kind of mainly chews on it. But
teach him it's fun too.
Right.
It's amazing what they can do if they only got 3 or 4 teeth and they chomp down on you.
It hurts. Yeah.
Ow. Yeah, I remember my younger brother doing that a few times. Now the program you got as a regular part of what the Department of Health offers. So, like, is it specialized in one clinic, or is it system-wide?
System-wide, yes. I mentioned the Head Start screenings. We start doing those before the school year, but that's at any clinic, any facility. Parents can just contact the facility and see how to schedule those appointments. And then what we do is we'll do the visual exam and take a look. If they're old enough, we'll take x-rays and check the x-rays. And if we find that we can treat the patient there, if they have needs, we'll do that. If they're a little young for treatment where they won't be able to cooperate or it's going to be hard to do the treatment, we typically refer those patients out to a pediatric dentist, and then they can do the treatment under sedation if needed.
Is there anything you can do for a child that gets like a toothache, a bad one, in the middle of the night or on a weekend?
Those are really tough. And even as an adult, if you get a toothache, it's almost always, it seems like, at Friday at 5 o'clock or, a holiday when you can't get in. You could give maybe a little Tylenol over the counter. Just get in as quickly as possible to the dentist, and we definitely take a look. A lot of times the tooth is abscessed at that point. When it gets to the point of it hurting like that, we can do a round of an antibiotic if we need to. If there's no swelling or drainage, typically an antibiotic is not recommended. But we would definitely take a look and take some x-rays and see what we can do.
Would you suggest an emergency room if it was, the child was just being tortured?
You could definitely do that. There may be some dentists, especially in the Tulsa area, some pediatric dentists that may be on call where they could come in and take a look, or at least do some emergency treatment as needed.
Something like that is kind of on your own nickel, though, right?
If it's a weekend or something like that where we don't have a chance to do a referral out, it would be under our program.
Right. Now, is there a wide range of subjects that would be included in childhood dental care that are being offered by the department? Something that education, prevention, et cetera, et cetera. What do you have for parents to learn?
We try to work with, and in the past we've had a chance to work with the Head Start, and so that we feel like we're reaching some of the younger kids that way, and the parents. Over the years, we've tried a few different methods of doing that. We've tried going into the Head Start, having one of the dentists go in, and then we've had the patients come into the clinic, setting aside a day for those patients and parents to come in. Anytime the child comes in, that's a perfect opportunity for education for the parent as well. And we just encourage parents to ask questions and be involved with their child's dental health. And we encourage that, and we'll do what we can. And if we don't have an answer at the moment, we'll go find an answer for them.
Now, this next question, I think probably is a little odd, but what about the DIY folks? Saying, well, a child needs tooth extracted, go sterilize my pliers and take care of it, or, knock something loose or pull something out. Yikes.
Right.
What do you say when someone's thinking about that kind of thing?
I haven't come across many, thankfully, because that would be that would be a little scary for the child. I have had adult patients that have done their own dentistry, but not many that have done dentistry on their children. Baby teeth will wiggle out on their own, and so I'm not as concerned as, if they're going to take out a baby tooth that's loose. If it's something like a filling and they're trying to do temporary fillings or anything like that, I would just encourage them to think about the health of their child and to let them bring them in to see us and let us take a look and see what we can do for them to help them out.
What about the old string on the doorknob thing? I think somebody tried that at least once on me when I was a kid. But you see people shooting arrows and drones and throwing footballs and all kinds of stuff to take that tooth out. Now, is that a good idea, or is it something that probably shouldn't want to get into?
I haven't seen it done personally. I've never done anything like that. We didn't have YouTube at the time, so I didn't know that you could do things like that to a tooth. I'm assuming a lot of those cases the tooth was very loose. Little baby tooth was about to come out anyway. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but again, if it were very loose, that may be the reason it was so easy for those teeth to come out.
But if it isn't, you might want to rethink.
You might hurt. Yeah, you might do a little more injury if you try some of those things. So you may want to think about it twice before you do.
Okay, one more question on the do not try this at home kind of thing. Are there practices or ideas that people should absolutely not engage in when they're taking care of a child's tooth? In other words, no pliers.
Yeah, no pliers, nothing like that. I would say just kind of the things we've been mentioning with the foods and watching the diet, and nothing like you were mentioning the pop in the bottle. I probably had that as a child too. I was probably that kid that had the orange soda in the bottle or the sippy cup. No, I think just using common sense, what you would do for yourself, brushing and keeping your teeth clean, and I think the same would go for a child as well.
Okay, yeah, and you really want to be careful there. Oh, gosh, that's a lot of information you've managed to share with us. Thank you, Ms. Cook. Now, if anyone has any questions or wants to get in touch with you or possibly needs to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
I work at the Okmulgee Indian Health Center Dental Clinic, and our number is listed online. It's 918-591-5721 is the line to the dental clinic. And any one of our clinics, Sapulpa, Okemah, Eufaula, and Coweta would be able to take a call and to see patients as needed. We'd be happy to see them.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for all that information. We appreciate you. Excuse me. Whoa. Burping on mic is not a good idea. Thank you for coming in.
Sure, appreciate it.
All right. Couple of real quick announcements, and we're out of here. First of all, a chili cook-off on the 24th at the Wetumpka Indian Center, 11 to 3. There is entry fees, and you can win prizes there. Miss Mvskoke Nation 2018 pageant is accepting applications until the 28th. If you're interested in junior miss or miss, you might want to get a hold of those folks, 549-2557. Okay, there are a couple of others here that is Duchy Fest baby shower, hosted by the Creek Nation, the 27th from 5 to 7 at the Claude Cox Mvskoke Dome. All right, and that is once again on the 27th. All right, we'll let it go at that. Thank you for being with us. Gary Fife saying Mado Mabo Hedget Scott, and join us next week. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. But